Hello guys, what's up? Today we are going to talk about how to build big arms for tall guys. And before we continue, I just want to say that this video isn't about the question whether you should train differently because you're tall. In this video we're going to talk about fundamentals of how to build size in any body part. It just so happens that we are going to talk about arms. Because why not? And also, before we continue, I want to say that I'm not some guru bullshitter who will just say some stupid tips like feel the burn. No, I really have experience with this, and I have been struggling with arm development for a long time because of my long arms and average arm genetics. I'm not gonna say bad because I don't have bad arm genetics, but I have average arm genetics. So, like probably over 85% of you, even if you don't know it and you don't realize it because your arms are currently not big, you probably don't have bad genetics, you just have average genetics, and that's why your arms are not maybe growing at the rate you want them to grow, but they probably will, although I cannot say that for sure. We are just gonna dive into this, and for tip number 1, you have to understand that if you're tall, you have longer bones than somebody who is shorter than you. And by having longer bones, you literally need more muscle to fill out those bones with it. Having that in mind, if you're natural, it takes a long time to build muscle. And if you're training for less than 3 years, and yeah, I'm really saying 3 years, not months, and if you're training less than 3 years consistently, it's possible that you're actually maybe not even doing anything wrong. It just takes time to fill out your tall and long skeleton. This is really important and simple thing to understand. Guys, if you're natural, it probably takes a lot longer to build muscle than you think, especially in body parts that are not genetically superior. Tip number 2, focus on proper technique. I mean, this is so simple, and for some of you this may sound maybe too simple, and if it does sound too simple for you and you're not making gains you want, maybe you should start taking technique seriously. It's proven with studies, and you can make that judgment with common sense, that if you're using full range of motion and proper tempo, and by proper tempo I actually mean that if you're actually controlling the weight with your muscles and not with your bones and tendons and joints, that you're probably gonna make gains if you do that. But also it kind of connects with the previous statement, it takes time. That probably means for most of you that you will need to drop down the weight a little bit, but short term, and in the long term you will probably be safer and get much stronger if you're currently using lesser weights with better technique, which will in the long term result in more gains. I hope I said that correctly. It's like taking 2 steps back to make 5 steps forward. Tip number 3, avoid pump training. This is one thing where I messed up the most in my early years of training. By saying that, I mean that you should avoid training for the sole purpose of gaining a pump. If you're doing things properly, you're probably gonna get the pump anyway, so why chase the pump solely for getting pump? Pump doesn't mean you're going to grow. You can get a pump by doing 100 reps with bends, and we all know that you're not stimulating muscle growth training that way. Tip number 4, focus on basics first and do isolations always after basic movements like bench variations, overhead variations, pull down variations, or pull up variations and row variations. You can do your biceps curls, but do them after pull ups and rows. Yes, you need to do isolations, but do the more important exercises before. When you're natural, you have limited amount of recovery, so don't spend it on the movements that bring you less results than compound lifts. Tip number 5, set specific goals in training. If your goal is to maximize arm development, then you should adjust your training to meet that goal. For example, simple. Instead of doing bench press with ultra wide grip, do it with a little bit closer grip, because by close grip I don't mean gripping the bar too narrow, like bro style, 2 inches apart, but about shoulder width apart, and same goes for incline and overhead movements, about shoulder width apart. If you want to get bigger biceps, it's probably better if you start doing pulling movements with supinated grip rather than pronated grip, because that way you're probably gonna put more emphasis on biceps while doing pulling movements. Tip number 6. When doing isolations, focus on basic isolations exercises. Or in other words, don't try to hit upper left corner of the biceps or triceps, because that's not even possible. The shape of your muscle is determined by your muscle attachments. Doing preacher curls won't actually build lower part of your biceps. They will work your whole biceps, just like barbell curl, but the only difference is that on barbell curl you can lift more weight more efficiently, and probably, I'm saying again, probably, it will give you more gains in the long term. So tip number 7. Treat every rep individually with respect. Every rep counts. You may also think that this is pretty obvious, but if you take a look how an average gym goer does any exercise, it's pretty obvious that 99% of the people don't really have a clue what they are doing. Especially those know-it-alls who seem to know everything, but for some reason never progress either in size, strength or fat loss. You have to pay attention at every rep individually and really focus on what you are doing. Which brings me to tip number 8. Be patient. You must realize that if you're going to the gym, if your training is reasonably good, if your diet is reasonably good, you will make gains, but it just takes time. Tip number 9. Don't make excuses. Being tall is not an excuse for not making gains. If you don't know how to progress, you pay somebody to help you, or you figure it out on your own. That leads me to tip number 10, which is pretty important, and I know that most of you don't like this, but this is the truth. Pay somebody to help you, or in other words, hire a coach. This is such a taboo to say, to actually pay somebody to help you to make gains. But it's not unusual to pay for your healthcare, for your doctor, for dentist, for car repair. But for some stupid reason, in fitness, bodybuilding, powerlifting industry, everybody wants to be an expert. No, you're not an expert just because you watched 1000 YouTube videos and have read 1000 articles. You're just like everybody else. I also watched over 1000 YouTube videos, over 1000 articles, and over 100 books for sure in my 12 years of training. And I do not consider myself an expert. I know a lot of stuff, but I'm not an expert by any means. That's for tip number 10. And in conclusion, don't compare yourself with others. If you're tall, yes, you're probably gonna struggle a little bit more than everybody else with gains, but who cares? You're tall, be happy. Maybe some of this will help you, maybe not. I hope it will. These are probably my best tips for building big arms or to build any body part in your body. If you like this video, like it, subscribe, share, and that's it. Peace out, guys. May the gains be with you.